back. It's been described as a slow-motion time bomb, and there is no cure. I watched my own mother fight Alzheimer's disease for a decade. It's a long goodbye, and more than 5 million people in the U.S. suffer from it. It's a bigger killer, for example, than both breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. And the big question, are we doing everything we can to fight it? I spoke with actor and comedian Seth Rogen on this show last year, and he watched his mother-in-law slowly succumb to the disease. He became something of an expert on the subject and testified in front of Congress. But he was shocked at the lack of interest showed by our elected officials. Almost no one on the committee even bothered to show up.
I think it's indicative of the mentality that we find so frustrating, is that it seems to be of a low priority. It seems like these people don't care. That's the direct message they're giving by leaving during our testimony, is that they don't care. 2 of them were falling asleep during the first part of the testimony, literally. I mean, I saw it happening.
Well, the Washington Post profiles the struggles of Alzheimer's activists battling to raise awareness and fight the disease for themselves at the same time. And one of the activists in the article, Michael Ellen Bogan, delivered this message to our government. Will it take someone like me to have some sort of shootout like Columbine before someone will take notice? I would not do that. But I am trying to get your attention, and I am failing and dying at the same time. We're back with a roundtable, John, Susan, and Jonathan. Obviously, that fellow didn't do anything wrong except he scared some people. And my view, John, is everybody's been through this personally, knows what they're talking about. You've got some experience.
Yeah, I've had a couple of family members who had Alzheimer's, and my wife volunteers with a organization in Bethesda, Maryland that does hospice for people with Alzheimer's. And, you know, I think you're right that there's just not enough money, there's not enough attention. You know, her organization, they often will do fundraisers to raise money to buy things like iPods to use in musical therapy and things like that, and they're literally just collecting these from friends and family, and it's kind of shocking that you would have to do that for a disease that is widespread enough that most people have known someone whose family, at a minimum, has been touched by it, and we're not paying a lot of attention to a really sort of terrible, crippling disease.
You know, Susan, I don't think we should count on the market, if you will, to solve this disease. It's something that we occasionally get to the edge of thinking we're almost there, figuring out things in the brain that we didn't know before, and we're making progress, but waiting around for the commercial markets to come up with a drug that will make them enough money to justify the research doesn't seem to be the right way to go. We need the NIH here. There are some people like the Vredenbergs in Washington. George Vredenberg and his wife have done great contributions, but I don't think the private sector's up to it.
I agree, and the only thing that we can hope is, I think you look at Congress and how they used to not fund cancer research, and then as more and more people had a family member or a friend who suffered from it, they took more of a personal interest in it. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet with Alzheimer's, because there have been so people affected by it. But I also think, honestly, it's such a terrifying illness, and they don't want to think about it because they don't want to think that it could happen to any one of us. And the idea of having something happen to your body physically is threatening enough. The idea that you could not have control over your own mind, I think, is terrifying to most of us. And I think that's one of the reasons they're not really paying attention.
Yeah, and when it strikes, like it struck my mom, who was all into civic action, everything, running for council and everything, wanting to be alive at that age, it all of a sudden hits you. And some very smart people get hit late in life and nailed on this thing. Anyway, I hope the government and all these private agencies that are working so hard, private people like the Vredenbergs, keep up the good work. We need to help. This thing can be beaten. Anyway, John Stanton, thanks for your experiences. Susan Milligan, as always. Jonathan Capert, my friend. When we return, let me finish tonight with Rand Paul's unique appeal